Welcome to this comprehensive examination of Greek armored forces during the Second World War. When we discuss tank warfare in World War II, Greek armor is rarely mentioned. Yet the story of Greek tanks and armored vehicles during this devastating conflict is a remarkable tale of courage against overwhelming odds, desperate defense with inadequate equipment, and determination to resist aggression despite facing enemies with vastly superior armored forces. Today, we will explore the complete history of Greek armor during World War II, examining the limited but determined armored forces that equipped the Royal Hellenic Army during the Greco-Italian War of 1940 or 1941 and the German invasion that followed in April 1941. Greece's position in 1940 was precarious. As a relatively poor nation with limited industrial capacity, Greece had struggled to modernize its military during the interwar period. Greek military planners recognized the importance of armored forces, but faced severe budget constraints that limited tank purchases to minimal numbers. By October 1940, when Italy invaded Greece from Albania, the Greek army possessed fewer than 40 tanks of various types, mostly obsolete light tanks and tankettes purchased from France and Britain. This tiny armored force would face Italian armies equipped with hundreds of tanks, followed by German forces with even more powerful armor. Despite this enormous disparity in armored strength, Greek forces achieved remarkable success during the Greco-Italian War from October 1940 to April 1941. Greek infantry, supported by minimal armor, not only repelled the Italian invasion, but counterattacked into Albania, pushing Italian forces back and occupying southern Albanian territory. This victory over a larger, better-equipped enemy became one of the first Allied successes of World War II and demonstrated that courage, determination, and effective tactics could overcome material disadvantages. However, when Germany intervened in April 1941 to rescue its Italian ally, Greek forces faced an unstoppable Wehrmacht juggernaut. German armor, including Panzer IIIs and IVs, overwhelmed the minimal Greek tank force within days. The brief but intense April 1941 campaign saw Greek tankers fight with extraordinary courage despite hopeless odds, achieving what little success was possible before being overwhelmed. Let us now examine the tanks that equipped Greek forces during this dramatic period, beginning with the light tanks that formed the backbone of Greek armor. Light tanks, Renault FT-17. The Renault FT-17, France's Revolutionary World War I light tank, represented Greece's earliest acquisition of tracked armored vehicles. Greece purchased approximately 1,216 Renault FT-17 tanks from France in the 1920s. These purchases occurred during the interwar period when surplus FT-17s were available at low cost from French stocks, making them affordable for nations with limited budgets like Greece. The FT-17 measured 5 meters in length, including the tail, 1.74 meters in width, and 2.14 meters in height. It weighed 6.5 tons and was powered by a Renault 4-cylinder gasoline engine producing 39 horsepower, giving a maximum speed of only 7 kilometers per hour, extremely slow even by 1920s standards. The two-man crew consisted of driver and commander, gunner. Greek FT-17s were armed either with a 37mm Puteaux gun or an 8mm Hotchkiss machine gun, depending on the variant. Armor ranged from 8 to 22 millimeters, providing protection against rifle fire, but vulnerable to any anti-tank weapon. By 1940, Greek FT-17 tanks were thoroughly obsolete, being over 20 years old and representing technology from World War I. The extreme age, glacial speed, limited armament, and thin armor made them nearly useless for modern warfare. Most Greek FT-17s had been relegated to training duties, where their simple mechanics and forgiving handling made them suitable for teaching basic tank operation to new crews. Some may have been positioned in static defensive positions, where their lack of mobility was less problematic. During the Greco-Italian War and subsequent German invasion, Greek FT-17s saw no significant combat action. Their obsolescence was so complete that Greek commanders wisely chose not to commit them to battle, where they would have been quickly destroyed without achieving anything. The tanks remained in rear areas for training and possible last-ditch defense of critical positions. After the Axis occupation of Greece, German and Italian forces captured surviving FT-17s, though these ancient tanks held no value for the victors. The FT-17's presence in Greek service represented the challenge facing Greece. Limited budgets forcing reliance on obsolete equipment purchased cheaply as surplus. While these tanks provided some training value, they contributed nothing to Greece's combat capability in 1940-1941. Renault R-35. The Renault R-35 was a French light infantry tank that represented Greece's most modern and numerous armored vehicle. Greece purchased approximately 1820 R-35 tanks from France in 1939, receiving delivery just before World War II began. These tanks represented a significant investment for Greece and provided the core of Greek armored capability. The R-35 measured 4.02 meters in length, 1.87 meters in width, and 2.13 meters in height. It weighed 10.6 tons and was powered by a Renault gasoline engine, producing 82 horsepower, giving a maximum speed of only 20 kilometers per hour, painfully slow by late 1930s standards. Range was approximately 140 kilometers. The two-man crew consisted of commander, just gunner, and driver, an inadequate arrangement that overloaded the commander with multiple simultaneous duties. Primary armament consisted of a short 37mm SA-18 gun mounted in the small APXR turret, along with a coaxial 7.5mm machine gun. The 37mm gun could penetrate approximately 40 millimeters of armor at point-blank range, adequate against light tanks and tankettes, but insufficient against most medium tanks. The gun could fire armor-piercing and high-explosive ammunition. Armor protection ranged from 10 to 45 millimeters, with frontal surfaces having the thickest armor. This provided reasonable protection against anti-tank rifles and light anti-tank guns, but was vulnerable to dedicated anti-tank weapons. The R-35 suffered from several design limitations. The extremely slow speed, slowest of any tank in service in 1940, made tactical maneuvering nearly impossible and left the tank vulnerable to being outflanked. The two-man crew was grossly insufficient, with the commander forced to handle command, observation, target acquisition, gun laying, firing, and ammunition loading all simultaneously. The narrow tracks provided poor traction in muddy conditions. The vision devices were inadequate, limiting crew situational awareness. Despite these limitations, Greek R-35 tanks represented the best armor available to Greek forces and were organized into armored units intended for infantry support and counterattacks. When Italy invaded Greece on October 28, 1940, Greek R-35 tanks were deployed to defensive positions and conducted limited counterattacks against Italian forces. Greek tankers fought with determination, engaging Italian CV-33 tankettes, L-3 light tanks, and other Italian armor. The R-35's combat record in Greek service demonstrated both the tank's capabilities and limitations. Greek R-35 crews achieved some successes against Italian light armor, with the 37mm gun proving effective against CV-33 tankettes and adequate against some Italian light tanks. The R-35's armor could resist Italian machine gun fire and some light anti-tank weapons. However, the slow speed prevented effective tactical maneuvers, and the overworked commander reduced combat effectiveness. During the Greek counteroffensive into Albania in late 1940 and early 1941, some R-35 tanks supported infantry attacks against Italian positions. The tanks provided mobile firepower and morale support for Greek troops, though their slow speed limited effectiveness in exploitation operations. The mountainous Albanian terrain, with its poor roads and steep slopes, was poorly suited for tank operations, further limiting R-35 effectiveness. When Germany invaded Greece in April 1941, Greek R-35 tanks faced an entirely different caliber of opponent. German Panzer IIIs and IVs, equipped with more powerful guns, better armor, and far superior speed, overwhelmed Greek armor within days. Greek R-35 crews fought courageously, but could not overcome the massive German superiority in numbers, quality, and tactical proficiency. Most Greek R-35 tanks were destroyed in combat, abandoned due to mechanical failure, or captured by German forces. The brief but intense fighting demonstrated Greek tankers' courage, but also the impossibility of resisting a modern armored force with obsolescent equipment. After Greece's conquest, German forces captured surviving R-35 tanks. Some were incorporated into German service for occupation duties or training, while others were scrapped or transferred to Allied forces. The R-35's service with Greek forces though brief, demonstrated both the tank's capabilities against Italian light armor and their inadequacy against German forces. Vickers Armstrong Light Tank Mark VI. Britain provided Greece with approximately 6 to 8 Vickers Armstrong Light Tank Mark VI vehicles in the late 1930s through military assistance programs and commercial sales. These British light tanks represented modern reconnaissance vehicles, though their light armament and armor limited combat effectiveness against well-armed opponents. The light tank Mark VI measured approximately 4.57 meters in length, 2.08 meters in width, and 2.23 meters in height. It weighed approximately 5.2 tons, making it a genuinely light tank. Power came from a Meadows gasoline engine producing 88 horsepower, giving a maximum speed of 56 kilometers per hour on roads, far faster than the R-35. Range was approximately 200 kilometers. The three-man crew consisted of commander, gunner, and driver. Armament consisted of a 50 caliber Vickers machine gun and a 303 caliber Vickers machine gun in a small turret. The absence of a cannon limited the tank to engaging soft targets, with no capability against armored vehicles beyond light tankettes. Armor protection ranged from 4 to 14 millimeters, providing protection only against small arms fire and fragments. The thin armor made the light tank Mark VI vulnerable to any anti-tank weapon or heavy machine gun. The light tank Mark VI was designed for reconnaissance, using speed and agility to scout enemy positions and avoid combat. In Greek service, these tanks were organized into reconnaissance units intended to provide mobile observation for infantry formations. During the Greco-Italian War, Greek light tank Mark VI conducted scouting missions, providing intelligence on Italian positions and movements. The good speed and mobility made them effective for reconnaissance when operated skillfully. However, the light tank Mark VI's minimal armament and armor meant it was ineffective in combat against Italian or German forces. The machine guns could suppress infantry, but could not engage enemy armor effectively. When German forces invaded in April 1941, Greek light tank Mark VI's were hopelessly outmatched. Most were quickly destroyed or captured. Their light construction and minimal protection made them easy prey for German weapons. The light tank Mark VI represented British light tank design philosophy, emphasizing speed for reconnaissance over combat capability. In Greek service, they provided mobile observation, but contributed little to combat power. The tank's main value was allowing Greek forces some mechanized reconnaissance capability, however limited. Card-and-Lloyd tankettes. Greece acquired a small number of British Card-and-Lloyd tankettes in the early 1930s, probably fewer than 10 vehicles. These tiny machine gun carriers represented minimal armored capability, but were affordable for Greece's limited budget. The Card-and-Lloyd measured only 2.46 meters in length, 1.75 meters in width, and 1.22 meters in height. It weighed only 1.5 tons and was powered by a Ford Model T engine producing 22 horsepower. The two-man crew operated in extremely cramped conditions with an open top. Armament consisted of a single machine gun with very limited traverse. Armor ranged from 4 to 9 millimeters, providing minimal protection. By 1940, these tankettes were completely obsolete and had been relegated to training or scrapped. If any remained operational during the war, they played no combat role, being essentially valueless as military equipment. Armored cars. Various British and French armored cars. Greece operated a small number of British and French armored cars for reconnaissance and internal security duties. These probably included vehicles like the British Guy armored car, and various French designs. Exact numbers and types are unclear, but probably fewer than 20 armored cars total were in Greek service. These four-wheeled and six-wheeled vehicles were armed with machine guns or light cannons and provided mobile firepower for cavalry and reconnaissance units. During the Greco-Italian War and German invasion, Greek armored cars conducted scouting missions and security patrols. However, their light armament and armor meant they could not significantly influence combat outcomes. Most were destroyed or captured during the fighting. The story of Greek tanks in World War II is one of courage against impossible odds, determined resistance with inadequate means, and the tragedy of brave soldiers fighting with obsolete equipment against overwhelming enemies. Greece entered the war period with fewer than 40 tanks, mostly obsolescent French and British light tanks, purchased in the late 1930s. This minimal force represented what Greece could afford, but was utterly inadequate for modern mechanized warfare. The Renault R-35, with approximately 18 to 20 tanks, represented Greece's most modern and numerous armored vehicle. These slow, lightly armed French tanks proved adequate for limited engagements against Italian light armor, but were obsolescent by 1940 standards and hopelessly outmatched by German forces. Greek R-35 crews fought with courage during both the Greco-Italian War and the German invasion, achieving what success was possible before being overwhelmed. Greek armored operations during the Greco-Italian War from October 1940 to April 1941 demonstrated both the possibilities and limitations of minimal armored forces. Greek tanks supported the successful defense against Italian invasion and participated in counteroffensives into Albania, contributing to Greece's remarkable victory over Italy. However, the mountainous terrain limited armor effectiveness, and the small numbers meant Greek armor was a supporting element rather than a decisive force. When Germany invaded in April 1941, Greek armored resistance lasted only days before being crushed by overwhelming German superiority. German panzer divisions, with superior numbers, better equipment, and devastating combined arms tactics, destroyed the minimal Greek armored force quickly and decisively. Greek tankers fought courageously, but courage could not overcome the massive disparity in capabilities. The tragedy of Greek armor in World War II was that brave men fought in obsolete tanks against impossible odds, achieving remarkable successes against Italy, despite material disadvantages, only to be overwhelmed by German forces against whom resistance was futile from the start. Greek tankers demonstrated that courage and determination could achieve victories when fighting enemies of comparable capability, but could not overcome the enormous material superiority of a fully mobilized major power. Thank you for joining us on this comprehensive exploration of Greek tanks in World War II. From obsolete Renault FT-17s to the more capable R-35s, from British light tanks to the various tankettes and armored cars, these vehicles represented Greece's determined but inadequate effort to field armored forces capable of defending national sovereignty. Greek tankers who fought in 1940-1941 deserve recognition for their courage, achieving remarkable success against Italy with minimal means, then fighting to the end against unstoppable German forces, demonstrating that Greek determination and bravery remained unbroken even when material means proved inadequate.